Pakistan, along with the United States, helped by the United States, we organized the resistance to the Soviets. And the resistance was organized by Pakistani ISI training these militants who were invited from all over the Muslim world to do jihad against the Soviet Union. And so we created these militant groups to fight the Soviets. Then, of course, fighting the Soviets, jihad was glorified. And I never forget when Ronald Reagan invited the Mujahideen leaders to Washington, and he said they reminded him, and I quote, the moral equivalence of the founding fathers of the United States. So jihad was, jihadis were heroes then. Come 1989, Soviets leave Afghanistan. The United States packs up and leaves Pakistan with a lot of those who would have reminded Ronald Reagan of the moral equivalence of founding fathers, and we were left with these groups. And then comes 9/11, and Pakistan again joined the US in the war on terror, and now we are hard. But I said we had first trained these guys to fight jihad, and it was a great idea, and now we are telling the same groups it's terrorism. So we should at least have stayed neutral. Pakistan, by joining the US after 9/11, committed one of the biggest blunders. 70,000 Pakistanis died in this. We had, some say over 150 billion, some say 200 billion, some economists, Pakistanis, 200. The lessons learned now, I think the Pakistan government should not have pledged what they could not deliver. How could they deliver? There were insider attacks in the Pakistan army. The groups that were close to the Pakistan army, the army was
responsible for our difficulties in Afghanistan because Pakistan continues to accord sanctuary, provide sanctuary to the Taliban. And even if you can't always succeed against radicals who are on your territory, it seems to me it's totally legitimate for the United States to expect 100% effort. And at times we have argued and we would argue that the effort is anything but 100%.
Look, here was someone who kept saying that there's never going to be a military solution in Afghanistan. I kept telling Pakistan government whenever I had a chance. I came here in 2008. President Obama had not taken office. I spoke to senior Democrats. I told them that there will never be a military solution in Afghanistan simply because I have read the history of Afghanistan. You just have to read the history. They fight each other. The moment a foreigner comes through, they all get together and the resistance starts. Started with the British, 3 times the British tried. The Soviets killed 1 million Afghans. There was still, the resistance was stronger after 1 million Afghans had been killed. So I kept trying to tell this. I tried to explain to, I remember meeting Joe Biden, John Kerry, Harry Reid. I tried to explain, and I realized they hadn't a clue. No one understood Afghanistan. The politicians didn't understand what was going on. And this madness kept going on, and Pakistan kept being blamed. Now, Pakistan had two right now, but it had even more. We have 2.7 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan. There are camps of 500,000 refugees living there. How do we know who's coming in and going out? Clearly, this was not from Pakistan, the idea that there were these insurgents going from Pakistan. How are we? First of all, the tribal area bordering Afghanistan, there is no border there. The Durand line is a line made by the British, which there is no border there. Now we are fencing the border. Because of the allegations that fighters are going from Pakistan, we are fencing the border. We've also time and time said that, look, if you want Pakistan to completely stop anyone going across, then take the refugees back, 2.7 billion people. But it's not possible that that 2.7 million refugees there and expect Pakistan to completely shut the border. Having said that, I do not think that it's because of Pakistan the US has not been able to succeed in Afghanistan, simply because there is a history behind it. It was never going to happen. And fortunately, President Trump has done, by him forcing there to be a dialogue, and then this peace deal, which was just about to be signed. This is painful for us. The peace deal was about to be signed, and President Trump has, we read it in the papers. I mean, we should have at least been discussed with us. But now I'm meeting President Trump later on, and I will try and tell him that, look, there's not going to be a military solution. For 19 years, if you have not been able to succeed, you're not going to be able to succeed in another 19 years.
I actually agree with you that there can't be a military solution. What I doubt is that there could be a peace deal that holds. So even if there were an agreement with the Taliban, what is there about the DNA of the Taliban that leads you to believe that any peace they would sign would be anything more than tactical?
I feel that this is not the Taliban which was there when in 2001, who was displaced by the US. Things have changed. They say that you only cross the river once. This is realities have changed. They have learned. Taliban realized that they cannot control whole of Afghanistan. The Afghan government knows that they cannot, there needs to be some sort of a peace deal. There has to be a political settlement. Let's just face it. You only have two choices. Either you fight or you have some sort of a political settlement. There's no point in fighting anymore. I wish that this deal had been signed, there would have been ceasefire, and then we would have proceeded towards the only way there's going to be, the US is going to eventually take the troops out and there'll be peace there. So I agree with you, Richard, it's going to be tough. I never for 1 minute assumed that this is going to be easy, but it is the only way.
Actually, I actually think there is a slightly different way, which is one idea is we would fight for military victory. I agree with you, that's not within reach. I am profoundly skeptical of a peace agreement. The third approach, for as long as it takes, is to support the government and basically preserve what you can in Afghanistan so it can't again become a basis for terrorist attacks. It's not a solution, but the United States has kept forces in other countries for more than half a century. We have supported governments. It's not a solution, but it might be preferable to a situation of Taliban control over the country.
I don't think Taliban will be able to control the whole country. I think there will be a settlement. Look, people of Afghanistan have suffered for 40 years. I mean, it is inhuman what they're going through. Anyone with any humane feelings would want there to be peace there. Every day there are bomb blasts going and people dying. So anything to actually stop this, again, Richard, I agree with you that after the 17 years of bloodshed and the way things have gone, I agree that it's not going to be easy. But I also don't think that if we go the other way, it'll be just more of the same. If Taliban today are stronger than they were for, maybe in 2010, when the last time there was chance of a peace talks, when Holbrooke was there. They're much stronger than that now. And when they see that the US is about to leave, their morale is up.
Exactly. Which is why some of us are skeptical. But
no, so what I mean is that military is not the solution. If they're now feeling stronger than before, they're not going to be able to give up if you kill or bomb more of them.
I'm going to move on, but thank you. I think it's an important exchange. Osama bin Laden, when he was found and killed by American troops, he was just outside of your capital. Has there ever been a Pakistani investigation, a government investigation, as to how that could have happened? That he could have been living there for so long?
There has been an investigation, but I don't know whether as far as I know, the Abbottabad commission sat down, and I don't know what the conclusion was. But I can tell you one thing. You see, I again go back. The Pakistani army, ISI, trained Al-Qaeda and all these groups to fight in Afghanistan. There were always links between Pakistan. There had to be links because they trained them. Now, as I said, after 9/11, when we did a 180-degree turn and went after those groups, you know, not everyone agreed with us. Within the army, people didn't agree with us. And so, as I said, there were more insider attacks in Pakistan. General Musharraf, there were 2 attacks on him, suicide attacks on him, which were insider from within the army. So people, you know, so as far as I know, and I think there was a statement by President Obama that Pakistan military, the army chief, the ISI chief, had no idea about this. Because I know, because I think they were listening, you know, to their conversation the night the raid took place. And they said so. So if there was, it was probably at lower levels who already had contacts.
Actually, I wanted to follow up on something, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but in the history, the modern history of Pakistan, I would say most outsiders, when they look at the prime minister as a position, and they look at the strength of the chief of staff of the army and the head of the ISI, the intelligence directorate, they would say the preponderance of power is in the hands of the other 2 individuals, the head of the army and the head of intelligence. Is that a fair characterization? So do you really feel limited in what you can do as prime minister?
Look, in any democracy or any form of government, democracies function because of moral authority. If democracies lose their moral authority, then the physical strength and authority lies with the army. In our country, because space was given due to a lack of moral authority, because of corrupt governments, the army, you know, naturally, there's no vacuum, so it moved in. I can tell you that since I have been 13 months in power, every policy of mine is in our manifesto. We wanted peace with all our neighbors. We opened the Kartarpur corridor, you know, opening up. Normally, this would have had security implications. Our security forces would have resisted. Our policy with Afghanistan, which we reached out immediately to Afghanistan, to President Ghani. I have invited him to Pakistan. We speak regularly if there's any issue. Every policy of my government, which was peace with our neighbors, has been backed by the Pakistan Army.